What is good, God's Vibes? We've got a guest on the podcast today. Welcome, Evelyn, to the God's Vibes podcast.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here. It's so cool.
This is so fun. I'm so excited to have you here and have you share. But tell the folks who Evelyn is.
I am Evelyn Isabel. It's kind of what I go by these days. Named my business Evelyn Isabel, which is my first and middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a beautician. I've been in the beauty industry for 12 plus years, and I've done a little bit of everything. Started off as a hairstylist, makeup artist, and turned into a brow queen and esthetician, skin expert.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just take care of people, make them pretty, and try to share the love,
Yeah. I love that. That's so fascinating too. I'm just even sensing like in the past 12 years, like how much the beauty industry has changed in general.
Oh my gosh,
So
so
just your
much.
ability to adapt and like, catch whatever the trends are, the desires are. It's just wild.
Yeah, it definitely it's crazy, and it's such a growing industry right now. But even microblading, I'm a microblader. That's
Yeah.
kind of claim to fame right now. And that 6 years ago when I started that, it was a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, lots of people getting into it. And
Yeah. And even your ability to ride the wave of that, right? I think is just phenomenal.
oh my gosh, yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm curious too, because you just said that you make people beautiful, but I really feel like what you truly do is enhance their beauty, right? Like you help them
Yes.
actually see and find it. And then this is just
Yes.
extra, right? So talk
Yeah.
to me about that, because I feel like people might not know what they get when they get you. And there's this beautiful warrior, godlike woman in you that they don't even know until they actually encounter you. And they're like, wait, what is this? There's something different, like what's happening here. So can you unpack a bit of your God journey and how that's brought you to incorporate God in a lot of what you do too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I feel like I love to surprise people
Yeah.
with who I am. It's like I have an armful of tattoos, but I don't even like know that. Like that doesn't like register in my head when people are meeting me. So I laugh because sometimes, who knows? Like outward
Yeah.
appearances are a lot,
Yeah.
So my chair is definitely my pulpit, and
Love that.
I have gained that over the years. Like it's just something I can't contain, like I can't hold in. Especially if I'm learning something with God in the moment he's walking with me, then it's like he always brings me those people who are walking through something similar, or like I've been through that in the past. Or
Yeah.
and it's so cool because I get to just like speak life into people. And I'm grateful to do that. But I have seen the grace of God so big in my life because, I used to live a totally different kind of, life. I was a hardcore drug addict and alcoholic,
Yeah.
in my teenage and then like young adult years. And I got clean and sober about 10 years ago when I was 23. I'm 32 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And God was with me the whole time. And I've always been a believer, but it
Like
wasn't
literally
truly
since you
until
could remember, like as a young girl, you still believe.
yeah, I've always been, I'm a very spiritual person because I've always like felt the spirit. You know, so yeah, I feel like I knew the Holy Spirit before I really knew what
Yeah.
it all meant. And,
Yeah.
Jesus died on the cross for my sins and everything.
Yeah.
I just have always felt that, presence. So yeah.
So you felt
Yeah,
it like at a young age, you always felt that presence, but yet you still went down a path that maybe you knew wasn't
yeah,
like the highest path for your life. So kind of what was happening there? Because I know in
yeah.
like my
Isn't
story
it
it was very
crazy?
similar too, where I could feel the presence of God, but I didn't have the trust to listen. Like that
Yeah.
almost felt like to the world that would be foolish to listen to
Yeah.
yourself. Like you have to do the wise or the responsible thing, right? So that taught
Yeah.
me to not listen. So I'm just curious for you, you had that presence, yet you didn't really listen to it. right? Because the presence never leads you into a place that's not good for you.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I was kind of taught my whole life by the world and, you know, parents and whatever, but definitely from the way I naturally operate,
Yeah.
I learned to not trust myself, to not listen to myself, that I was a, you know, whatever, a dreamer, or a, you know, I lived in another reality or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's
Yeah.
like I always just like knew there was possibility. So yeah, I think that kind of broke me down. And when I found something that would take that away from me, I guess, that feeling of being misplaced or the black sheep or, you know, unheard or seen, I found that in, you know, drugs and alcohol. And so, you know, obviously that just takes you into a whole nother,
Yeah.
the people who surround you and the places you go and everything, when you let your guard down that much and you're, you know, using substances, then you can go to some pretty dark places. And it's amazing that I'm alive, first of all.
Yeah.
It really is incredible. God has some plans for me because yeah, I would not be here.
Yeah.
But and just some of the, you know, things that I got myself into, it's he was always there, but I was not listening. And it's like, I think I kind of took advantage of the fact that God, it's like, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to like
Yeah.
let him lead me
Yeah.
because I was broken. I was a small, broken girl who was, you know, in extremely abusive relationships and
Yeah.
running away from myself, I guess. And so
Yeah.
finally, when I kind of got the memo, uh, it was like immediately he just picked me up and set me on a solid rock. So
Wow. Can you explain a little bit like what that was like when you finally got it?
yeah. And I finally got it. Well,
Or at least like you had the desire now to listen. Like, let's put it that way.
yeah.
Like, because we never
Well,
like arrive anywhere, but like
yeah,
you
I
can at
think the
least decide
love.
like I'm gonna follow this path versus I'm gonna continue in my own way.
Yes. And I did have a very serious choice. I'm a mother and my daughter is 12, and so I didn't get clean and sober until she was around 2 years old. My parents have been a huge amazing part of her life.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it's just crazy. Like, God blesses me even in my most broken, you know, weakness. But I had a choice. It was like, you know, am I gonna live out this life of, you know, not being worthy and, you know, not being able to get out and all these excuses, or am I gonna just do the hard work, whatever that meant?
Yeah.
And so I chose that. And it's funny because the things that came into place for me to get the help that God wanted me to have,
Yeah.
some funny things had to happen. So, you know, like getting arrested and going to a 11-month rehab that was like lockup. You know, most people wouldn't see that as like a blessing, but
Mhm.
it's like I knew it from the moment that I even heard about this place that I wanted to go,
Yeah.
that it was going to be something, you know, miraculous. And in that time, I got away from, you know, the loudness and all that. And I got to learn what it was like to hear myself, what I liked, and, you know, how worthy I was
Mhm.
to get out of this cycle. You know, it's very, very uncommon for people to get out of that lifestyle. And that makes me sad, but I didn't want to be a drug addict my
Yeah.
whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew things were better and bigger, and I wanted to be my daughter's mother.
Yeah.
So the love of God and that grace is what just filled me. The fact that I was so loved that I could just make the decision to not live that way. And it was like, here's all these possibilities and opportunities to, have love and worthiness and success. That's pretty awesome. So I guess I grasped the grace and the mercy and the love of God. So I'm like, okay, I'm yours, man. Like I will live my life for you. I used to pray in rehab. I would like kneel at night and pray to God and talk to him. And I just remember vividly this one night, but I prayed this prayer over and over again. Makes me emotional, but to be, like, just use me.
Yeah.
Use me, whatever that means. And,
Yeah.
he's doing it. So
Yeah. So beautiful. And I love that you were able to explain this, because not everybody sees it from that perspective, right? When you have all these things happen, like getting arrested or going to, a lockup situation, right? Where you're like a captive audience, literally. Not everybody sees that as a blessing, or especially for people that love you on the outside, that could be really scary and intimidating. But I love that God revealed to you that even that is his mercy. Even that is his love for you, because he knows you. He knows how you're wired. He knows what you've been under the influence of, or what it's going to take to break certain influences off of you, and how long that would take too. And it's just a really, really beautiful process because of what you were able to receive.
Yeah.
What you were
It's
able to
amazing.
access because you were so open to that. And then from there, it sounds like you were on a very different mission now. So what started to happen after that?
Yeah. It's crazy. Like it's like my mission was literally like, I'm going to hell. Who's coming with me? Even though I didn't want to go to hell. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
wanted to be, with God, but I don't know. You just make the wrong decision over and over again. And I'm like, okay, well, throw the baby out with the bathwater and
Yeah.
be bad or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, coming into like this new life on the outside of that, it was all about, I mean, I was like probably annoying because I was like a, Jesus freak, like, Bible thumper, like,
Yeah.
all this, but it was really cool. And I think like over the years, I've definitely just gained more knowledge in him and what, it looks like to live my life out with him. And, I didn't necessarily have to go to the seminary and
Totally.
be a pastor, even though I was like, that's kind of what I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
But, it's like he took what I loved and what he created me to do and turned it into something I can use as a platform to just love people and let them know that, somebody's listening and watching. And sometimes I need that more than they do. Whatever I'm talking about,
Yeah. So unpack that for people, because I think that that's sort of a dream that a lot of people have in their heart, that or even something that feels like a stretch they don't think is possible, that God can take literally how he wired you and these talents, these dreams, these desires, and turn that into something that will totally glorify him. People are like, that's the sweet spot. Like, how do we actually like get to that? So can you unpack how he started guiding you into that and equipping you to do what you do today so gracefully, so easily, right?
This is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because yes, I was always I've been fixing hairstyles and putting makeup on and, doing all the beauty stuff and styling fashions and everything since I was like in elementary school. So,
Yeah.
you know, I always loved that kind of thing. And I thought for sure I was going to be a hairdresser, you know? So I went to school and did that and was a hairdresser for a few years and loved it. But actually, when I made a switch of career path was after I got out of rehab because I just wanted something new. But it's funny because I was deciding whether or not to stay in the city that I went to treatment at, because if I stayed for another year in this transitional house, I met this amazing lady who does amazing things called Haven Homes. And they've grown so much since I was like in the first house that they had. But she took women from coming out of this treatment center and gave them, you know, the opportunity to, you know, just get back into the real world, but have, you know, have women behind you supporting you and godly influence and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to make this decision because, you know, I had a daughter and I'm like, that's immediately what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I've got to get out and prove, you know, to the whole world that I'm, you know, worthy of being this little girl's mom. And, you know, just eager to like get into that role because I had, you know, failed a lot of ways before.
Yeah.
But we're driving around. We used to like take out trash or whatever, bring it to the trash place. And once you are at a certain level, you could like go outside into the real world. And we were driving around. I had always worked at Ulta, not always, but in the like I'd moved towns and I would work at Ulta. They always treated me good. And they were like building an Ulta as I'm like praying, what am I supposed to do? You know, should I stay here or whatever? And it was like, stay here. I've got a job for you. And yeah, and I wanted to do something different other than here. And they needed somebody to open the brow bar, which is hilarious because I was like, that's a big no. I will like have a panic attack and start sweating if you ask me to wax your eyebrows. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they were like, trust us, just, you know, train with this girl. She's the best in the nation. And I'm like, okay. And day one, I was like, I'm the brow whisperer. This is like my thing. So something I never would have known. It was like God made that, you know, path for me. And then in that, another one of these circumstances, I got extreme, like chronic and severe cystic acne. And it was miserable. It was horrible. I mean, worst thing in the world. I would sit in the mirror for hours picking at my skin and, you know, just loathing myself. So it was like mind, body, everything, just sadness. But it made me go see an esthetician and learn about skin. And instead of taking these antibiotics or Accutane or whatever, I did a bunch of research and found a more holistic approach and trained with some different companies, and I became an esthetician. So
amazing.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Like, we're going to learn all facets of this. We're going to help you with the brows, the face, like all things.
I know. It's crazy. So it's like I have a lot of experience in this industry. And actually I started my business about 4 years ago, and it's been definitely a roller coaster since doing that because, you know, entrepreneurship is hard. You don't learn about 89 things, you know, lessons of life unless you become an entrepreneur, you know, and then it's like they're all at once. And
literally, and they're not convenient.
It's a lot, but you know, I try to do everything myself, and like just in life in general, it's like that's my lesson that, you know, God wants me to learn is how to work with others and, you know, have a team and not control things and trust and all that. So I'm learning that for sure, but it kind of took me away from like I got so caught up in the business and how to be like the perfect business owner and like grow and scale my business and all this. It's like I kind of lost this confidence, I guess, and courage in like myself and the contentment in what I was doing, and that I was doing it for others. Like I was serving others, and
Yeah.
it kind of became about me, and it was like money and, like success. And even though I know God wants that for me, especially if I have dreams and aspirations to it, I know He's given me those.
Yeah.
But when it comes to me getting there on my own,
Yeah.
climb that mountain all by myself, or, letting it unfold, I've obviously been proven in this life that God will make a way, and He's on my side, and He's going to be the one doing,
Yeah.
doing the things that, are impossible. And I'm just supposed to be over here being good at what's right in front of me.
Yeah. So good. So how did you get into this sphere? Like what happened in that journey? Because you're now in the God's Vibes Mastermind, right? And inside Courage Co. Like
Yeah.
how did this become a part of your journey? Or like what was that like for you? Because I think it's one thing to know that you can't do something by yourself, and God did design you to do that, but then He actually guides you into different things to support you on your journey. But it is on you to decide to leap. So I'm curious what that journey has been and how you got over here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, without taking an hour and a half and a sob story, let's just say I had a few lessons I really needed to learn. Not like, I'm learning this lesson, God's teaching me a lesson. It's not like that. It's like this life way, like this way about how I live and, and think, and everything. I had to learn some big things about myself. And, I've always been a mind person. My mind's always going. I've got a lot of power up here,
Yeah.
um and it works against me if I let it.
Yeah.
But I was just like searching for, it's like I immediately had success with my business, and it was like I went from a person who never wanted money. I didn't want anything. I've never been really materialistic, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to live like on a commune and be a barefooted hippie, my whole life, and like trade, haircuts or whatever, live on a beach without AC, something.
Yeah.
But then, I started this business because another thing, a blessing in disguise, I got let go from the job that I had right before I started my business.
Mm.
And it was just kind of hilarious because then I immediately had to jump into something else and start a business, which I had been talking about doing forever.
Yeah.
And it was like immediately God took my efforts and my courage. And, I say I built a 6-figure business overnight, but it was more like 2 weeks. And,
Yeah.
it was just awesome. But
Yeah.
then with all that, I didn't know what to do with it. I, thought, oh, this is the next step. And I started listening to all these business people, and I started reading all these business books and
Yeah.
all that. And yeah, I just was like trying to follow this path of these other people who say this is how you have success, or this is how you scale your business, or whatever. And so, I spent a lot of money on different coaches and all that kind of stuff, really to come to find out that I wasn't aligned with what, they were asking of me. And it made it really hard for me, because then I thought, well, I guess I'm just defective, so that hurt in my mental space and everything. So I went through a lot of depression, and it was just really hard. And so one day I'm searching on, I was like having one of those moments, and I searched on podcasts like mental health, Jesus, or like God, or like biblical mental health or something.
Yeah.
And I think like the actual issue I was thinking I needed, relief from. And I was going through all the different ones, and I found yours. It just spoke to me. I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, like when I started listening to your podcast, I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and it was just like the way that you spoke about making the Bible applicable in life. It was like, I mean, which is what, like, that's what the Bible's for, right? Like, live. I mean, that's why he
Yeah.
gives it to us.
Yeah.
And it's like, we are like, yeah, that's great. And then we set it aside and we do what, the world tells us to do,
Yeah.
or our parents or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like, it really spoke to me, and it helped me have a little, make it to the next day, I guess. And yeah, I was listening, over the days and weeks, and it was helping me so much put into practice, what I always learned before with God.
Yeah.
And then the God's Mind, Mastermind, but God's Vibe Mastermind, I was like, well, there's no way I can do it because I've spent all this money. I'm, barely paying my bills and all this stuff, and, working through all this business debt and whatever.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I was just like, well, maybe I'll just try, or maybe I'll see. I needed to find out how much it was. And then I found out how much it was. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's doable because, wow, she's giving away. I get so much out of her podcast. Like, I get more out of your one episode of a podcast in every area of my life than I did, $15,000 of coaching that, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And make it work. And it was really, I've just, it's been pretty amazing being a part of this community that you've built, and just the lesson that, the lessons and everything that I've gained from it. It got me to a place that I actually wanted to like be in. I was really struggling, really struggling. And I didn't feel like I had community at all. Yeah. So it like, just by teaching me how to get back into my word and like use it as my playbook. Like, I don't need to listen to all these other people telling me what to do. I don't need to listen to, my whatever negative thoughts or anything. All I have to do is just listen to this book to the best I can, and try to move forward. And it's been really cool to be a.
That's amazing. And I want to highlight too, because this is actually a common theme, and it's also why we're now allowing people to get into a certification program in January, right? Just because the coaching industry right now is, I do believe that it's going to take a place where people are recognizing that mental health is really important and they're investing in therapy. They're going to start recognizing too that coaching like is in step with therapy, right? And it's just as important, and it has its own lane. However, right, when you have different industries, like there's the good and the bad, and sometimes you have to go through a lot of bad to get the good, and that's true of any industry. But for what you did and what you experienced, you demonstrated a massive amount of courage, right, to have this huge pain point that led you straight into your worst fears and like traumas and pains about yourself, and debt, not just like
exactly what it was.
like not just like debt as a human, right? Like debt in your soul, like debt in your mind, debt in your emotion, like literally like debt in you, to this place of feeling like unworthy and lack and all of that, but also in your finances. Now you're like, am I going to do it again? Because
Yeah.
inevitably you do have these like really heavy, weighty fears like, oh, is this going to be like the last program, or am I going to like learn that I'm like a fool
Yeah.
again, or am I going to be
Yeah.
in more debt? Like those are really real things that I can imagine were bouncing in your being, right? That you still said, no, this is God and I'm going to go all in and I'm going to make it work, or he's going to make it work for me, whatever it was. But can you unpack that for people? Because I feel like this is way more common than we think, that people are literally, unfortunately, getting in the hands of, I would hope, well meaning people, but I often give the visual of like holding a heart like this and then just dropping it.
Yeah.
these people
Yeah.
are, these people are dropping people, and it makes me righteously angry, to be honest with you. But this is becoming more and more common, that people are about success, quote unquote, whatever that looks like, and about their platform, their image, their money, their whatever, at the sake of like other people. Like you're literally breaking people, and this is not a good thing. So what was it for you, and what was that jump that you took, this leap of faith that you took? What happened for you that allowed you to do what not a normal person would do? And take this leap again?
Well, I'm not a normal person.
Right. So there's that.
As much as I would like to be sometimes,
Oh my
uh,
God.
I wouldn't trade my crazy, for the world. Um, yeah, so lots of that, because just like you said, literally my worst fears, you know, uh, beliefs, like all these things, it couldn't, have gotten worse, basically, like
Literally.
without, not breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so here I go again, wanting to do another thing that I'm just gonna, because that's the thing. Like I was listening to all these people doing all these things, buying all these courses, all this.
Yeah.
And so, okay, am I just falling into the same pattern?
Yes.
And obviously, since it was God's vibes, this is going to be a little different, right? And I'm already getting so much stuff from just the free content.
Yeah.
um yeah, it was just kind of obvious, I guess,
Yeah.
that this was different, and that like, it gave me discernment for your heart and what you're doing, especially with your price, because I was like, there's no way she's like giving it away like this.
Yeah.
And I even thought to myself, like, wow, she really needs to go up. Like, I need to, tell her or whatever, like, she should
Yeah.
do this for more. Like, I can't imagine ever charging only that much or whatever for my, hard work. And,
Sure.
it's just, it's blown my mind with the way that you live it out, and this thing that you want to help others gain. It really is more about the person that you're serving, and like God honors that. And it's so obvious with you. And so that was definitely a breath of fresh air, because yes, I think all the success in the world is great. People want it, people get it sometimes, but in the coaching world, there's a lot of really, really high up coaches that, there's no way they can pay attention to all the people or whatever that, they've got in their net. And yeah, the fact that I knew it was going to be personal, I knew that, I was going to be with you. I had been to some of those little other classes that you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, I don't know. I think I listened to a couple of people doing a podcast that had been through it.
Yeah.
And I just felt a peace, because that was the thing. I never had peace when I was, clicking buy or whatever, or signing up for this other thing. I didn't have peace. I had scarcity, and I had desperation, and yeah, just like hanging on by a thread, white knuckling it. And I I had peace. I prayed about it. I actually prayed about it before I did it, you know. Um, funny how that works. But yeah, and I had peace. So um that was a decision that has helped me now in the previous months,
Yeah.
since doing it, learn how to pause and not act out of desperation or scarcity. And it's like, yeah, bringing me back to a place of total trust with God.
Yeah.
Um, I I needed a lot of help getting back there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it's so fascinating that God will package it in a way that you don't expect. So I love
Yeah.
that you just gave people some parameters, some guidelines, right? That are principled so they can actually assess, like, is this God? Is this for me? Is this a good thing? Or is this actually a God thing? Like, if I give this yes, is this going to give me a return on my investment or give me more than I even know to ask for? Or is this going to sink me? Because truly, if we don't use that discernment or that wisdom or pray about it, and if we don't have peace, we really should not make that kind of commitment, right?
Yeah.
Because when God is on it, it sounds like you can attest to this. He gives you way more than you pay for. Way
Mm-hmm.
more. Like
Way
way
more.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll just keep validating you as you go through a thing. But if he's not on it, and I've been here too, similar story of investing in all sorts of things, thinking that was what you do, and it was really not a wise thing to do. But
Yeah.
when
But
God,
that's how we learned that though too, you know. It's like
yes,
in the way that you care for the people that you're serving, it just
yes,
it's all meant, you know, it's all for good, but
all of it, all of it. And I just think it's important, like, so for people to consider, it's like, what is it that you are craving? What is it that you desire? What is it that you need? How is it that you learn, right? Because for some people, maybe they want to buy a course and just like tinker with something and be good, right? Other people, maybe they want that one-on-one interaction, right? Like, I'm
Mhm.
somebody that if I can't interact with a person, I probably don't want to do their program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's really on you. It's up to you. Like, what is it that you need? How are you going to learn? And is this a match for it? Because if it is, that'll help you bypass all of the challenges, which will be there every time, right?
Mm.
Like the money, the time commitment, the return on investment. You're going to have those questions no matter what. But if you have the answers to everything it is that you're craving, then your yes is that much more valuable.
Yeah.
It's that much more solid. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear from you too. Like when you get in there and you don't, maybe you don't fully know what it is that you're signing up for, because I know that's happened to a lot
Yeah.
of
I
people.
was like, I think like she's marketing this as like business, like
Yeah,
coaching, but like I know it's like more like, you know, it's like I obviously got it. Like I'm a, you know, Jesus girl. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be
yeah,
biblical application and using
yeah,
it for whatever area of my life. But it was
yeah,
funny because yeah, I was like, well, I don't really know how this is gonna help with my business, but I know I need to put God first and I know I want him back on
yeah,
the throne. So I
yeah,
guess I'll, you know,
yeah,
go with it. And yeah, it's funny because it's applicable for all areas of our life because you can't have any success and or sustainable, you know, I'm all about sustainability now. It's like how do I build success but sustainable?
yeah,
Same thing with my clients, like how do we
yeah,
give you this look, or you know, I'm a microblader, so you know, how do we make your brows look amazing right now but also
yeah,
look amazing in 10 years and not like, you know,
yeah.
bad. You know, by only
Totally.
caring about like what happens next week.
Yes, it's so
Yeah,
good.
so yeah, it's been
So that's
uh
what I'm curious. So, like, if you could describe it in your experience, what it's been like for you, because other people, right? It's been pivotal to their identity, maybe, or it's been getting them back into relationship with God, or actually experiencing that for the first time, or up leveling their business in a way that He is leading and guiding, and they know without a doubt in their mind that this is God's strategy, not their strategy, or even how to step out and really take a leap in a huge way in their life, or how to get through toxic relationship patterns and cycles,
yeah.
or how to like step out into a relationship after you've been hurt. Like, it covers so many things. So I'm curious what your actual journey has been like in there.
A little bit of everything. But yeah, going into it, I thought that business and was my ultimate, whatever I was struggling with and what I needed help with, like the strategy.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been so much bigger than that. Obviously, I had a lot to learn about myself and God and what he has for me now and in the future, and like the
Yeah.
people in my life and the relationships and my close loved ones, and just my isolation and, or how I'm interacting with the world. That definitely is what it has helped me, which has helped in my business. I mean, number one, it just got God back on the throne. And even if I wasn't like, big into, if I didn't really know that I'm like, obsessed with Jesus and I want to like live
Yeah.
my life out teaching his ways, it's just bigger than that. I guess it's not like religious, and it's just learning to have this deeper relationship with God, which ultimately is the relationship with yourself,
Yeah.
because it's like the relationship you have with, your creator, and what you believe is like, if you believe you're being, puppeteered or whatever, then, you're going to look at yourself that way.
Totally.
And, or if you believe that I have a God who knows everything about me and still chooses me and desires for me to have, my visions and dreams come true. And if it's not what I really think is going to happen and something else happens, then he knows best. And just like having that trust. So for me, it's definitely been how to treat myself and how to think of God, and how do I act as if what I believe is true, because that's what I said. I believed things and I wondered why things were so hard, but I wasn't acting like I really believed those things, that I was loved and that I was worthy, and that, the people around me deserved love and kindness. So
So good. And it's almost like the actual faith gap we talk a lot about. I was just talking to somebody about this as well. And I think you embody this, where it's, this is what I desire. This is what I believe is possible. And I often teach it's this
yeah.
or something better, so that you hold it loosely without like suffocating that thing or like white knuckling it. But if
Yes.
that's the case, then you live like it's done. Like if God said it was done, then it's done. And like if it is actually done, how you show up is very different now in the walking out of that journey, right? Like if you already have, I don't know, whatever the financial number is, or if you already have the set number of clients, or if you already have the level of success, whatever that picture is that God has given you, if you have that today, you would be showing up very different than if you were trying to pursue it, if you were desperate for it, or if you're like trying to grasp for that thing, right? You're not going
That
to
is
fall
so
into the
true.
temptation or the struggles that come with pursuing a thing that is not God, right? Because we often pursue the outcome, and God says pursue the
Yeah,
kingdom, right?
that's
Seek me
exactly.
first, not all this stuff. And when you
Yeah.
get it, then all that stuff comes. So it's like if you already believe and live like it's done, then you show up as a very centered, peaceful, content person that can express the fullness of what God has for you a moment
Yeah.
at a time. But if you miss that, then you start trying to chase things and get caught up in all sorts of craziness that was never meant for you. And we can live that way our entire life, which is the crazy part.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
could I could
Yeah,
live in my own little circle, like,
for
round
sure.
and round and round.
Sure.
Something's got to be bigger than me. And yeah, it's actually, I mean, you worked with at Celebrate Recovery,
Recovery.
helping people and stuff, which is so cool. I noticed that you kind of attract people who have, that in their life too, which I think is
Yeah.
pretty amazing, because, naturally, uh, an alcoholic or addict is restless, irritable, and discontent. And we have to learn how to put God in, and in the program, it's like, it's whatever your higher power is. But it's funny because I learned in the program that God has no limits, and he will not be put in a box, because the church says so or whatever. And he loves the church.
Yeah.
It's just pretty cool. But I totally forgot what I was going to say.
No,
We were talking about
if you're
something and I
living like
went
it's
off
done,
left.
right? Like if you're living like it's
Yes. Yeah. So I needed to learn that big time, because I was not acting like it. I was holding on for dear life. And I was like, if I don't make it happen, it won't happen.
right.
And
Right.
I am still learning that. I'm learning how
Yeah.
to trust and how to surrender. And then like, but what do I do? Like, what do I do over here? What do I think? What do I do? What I, say, believe, while I'm letting, God
Yeah.
do the heavy work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah.
We call it faith walking, right? Because what you're describing, and it's, I attract to me, and I love that you're highlighting that, like observing it too. It's, you kind of attract whatever you were before God. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you were traumatized, or if you were anxious, and I call that future tripping. If you were desperate, like deeply searching for answers, if you didn't have an identity and were having an imposter syndrome or an identity crisis, if you were lonely, if you didn't have solid relationships and friendships, like all of that will be brought into God's solution for all of those things, right? Like if you were a struggling entrepreneur, God will teach you how to be a successful one with him, because he delights in prospering his servants. Like that is truly something that you can know in your brain, but it's got to be something you own in your heart. And you
Yeah.
can't own that in your heart if you don't know your creator, the God that wants this for you, right? Because there's a process to everything that he's doing, and that's what makes it sustainable. If you don't
Yes.
go through that
Don't
process,
try to rush
yeah,
the
that's it.
outcome, beat everybody else to the finish line, because God's way is so much gooder, is
Yeah,
so much, better. And that's totally what
yeah,
it's been. I've learned the most about how to
yeah,
faith walk and believe, he has goodness for me, and I'm not going to be able to sustain anything, just like I wasn't able to sustain, a certain way of running my business, that in the bank account looked good, but I was worn so thin and totally burnt out. And so
yeah,
he's teaching me, how to have success the way that, plays out for me, and that those things can happen. But these are the things you need to make sure you're doing, is taking care of yourself
yeah,
and taking care of the ones that you love that are closest to you, not just, everybody else.
yeah,
Um, yeah. And just I guess it's kind of cool, because I didn't value what I wanted before. And I'm learning that God values what I want.
yes,
And yeah, I don't know. I'm like,
yeah.
you're the guy. I'm just following. So
Well, I think when you actually get that into your spirit, that God wants you to be a thriving, healthy, whole
mhm.
human more than you do. Like God truly wants that for you. So if you actually can embrace that you might not understand everything, but God is always good, right? Because if you just see a God that's sort of like a dictator, then it's almost like you just have to be a rule follower. But if you know that he's good, then you can trust that whatever process he has you on, even the crazy parts of your journey, that was all part of his purpose to make you
Yeah.
a healthy whole human that can thrive in life. That's truly what he desires. Because when you think about your testimony, right? Like what's a really vibrant example of what's possible with him? You being super depressed and strung out, like that's not really a great testimony of what's possible with God,
Yeah.
right? But if you can overcome that and like turn over here and look like that never even happened to you, hello. Like God can really share something through that story, and you can minister to people every time they're in your chair. Like, what?
Yeah.
This
I
is
know.
crazy.
I feel so lucky, and like I just feel like I am like God's special little, like I'm Peter, the one, he
Yeah.
loves the most or whatever. And
I'm God's favorite, but you are too.
I'm God's favorite, but everybody else is too. But I
Yeah.
just like, I feel the tenderness and like joy
Yeah.
that God has, like when, you know, looking at me or whatever and seeing my life and like holding me in the times where I'm like, I don't know what is going to work out and I'd rather just be with him right now,
Yeah.
but it's like I feel special because I've been dealt the hard ones,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was my doing,
Yeah.
but it was stuff I need to learn, and some of that I couldn't have stopped. It wasn't because I was just selfish and
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to screw everybody else and their feelings and whatever, and I just wanted to live my own way. No, I was like hurt, and
Yeah.
the fact that I've got to learn the hardest lessons, and then in business too. I wanted to become a business coach and help other people. So, guess what happened? Oh, I learned what to help
Have to
other
do.
people
Yeah.
with. Yeah. Or, how am I going to know how to help others if I really want God to use me? Be a light and in a scale, in a massive scale. If I want to touch that many lives with my life, then things are gonna have to be, pretty moving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or you've got to be healthy, right? Because he's so
yeah,
faithful that he's not going to give you more than you can bear. He's not going to give you something that's going to totally crush you or
yeah,
throw you back into a broken place. Like that is not his highest good or plan for your life, right? Like we might force that into being, right? Like I joke, like God
right.
will give you, like you go buy a puzzle from a store, you'll have the puzzle, it has the picture on there, and you're like, oh yay, this will be so beautiful to like have happen. Then you start putting the puzzle together and we like jam pieces into like position and we try to make this image happen. But it's like
Mhm.
he has his unique way of getting you into this manifestation of what he showed you. And
Yeah,
you can either cooperate and partner with him in that or not,
yeah.
right?
Co-creating.
Co-create
That's
with
what
him.
I've gained in, the
Yeah.
God's Vibes Mastermind. It definitely
Yes.
is co-creating
Yes.
with God. And it's
That's
just
it.
a new, fresh way of, thinking about it, that it gives me my part and it,
Yeah.
you know, gives God his part. And like, we're doing this together. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's the beauty of what you were just
walk on
describing,
with
right?
him.
Like he could use anybody, but he wants to build with you, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't just want to use you, right? Because he's not
Yeah.
like a manipulator or an abuser in that way.
Yeah.
He's not that, but he does want to build with you and he wants to do life with you. And
Yeah.
life is so much sweeter that way. And like when you're depending on him, that's the greatest way for his power to flow through you.
Yeah.
Can't when we're not, right? Like if we don't have God, his power isn't flowing through us,
Hmm.
right? It's on us. But when we're building with him, like he's building it and it'll be solid. But unless we're actually leaning on him and trusting him and throwing this into him, committing our way to him, then we're not going to see him in it. But if we do, he'll be all over that thing, right?
Yeah.
And he'll express himself in really unique ways, which is why I love how he's showing up through you right now, right? He's using every single part of your story
Hmm.
and everything that's like that
Yeah.
you find beautiful. He's using all of it and like mixing it together and just letting you play in it.
Yeah. If he, man, yeah. If he can turn me and my
Let's go.
life and my, what goes on in here, what goes on in my head, um, it can get really dangerous in there. And it's always been very lonely to
Yep.
be in there by myself.
Yep.
And, if he can transform that, um,
Yeah.
then he can literally do anything.
That's it. And then the beautiful thing too, even in you being able to reflect on your journey to date, right? It's like if God brought you through all of it and to it, he's going to see you through what's next. Right? Like he doesn't bring you to some place to drop you. Like that's not how God works ever. right?
Mm-mm.
He brings you through levels. There's always levels to this. And when you're ready for the next one, that's your graduation. You get your next level,
Yeah.
your next challenge, your next, growth journey in him. That's what happens when you pass the test with him. He gives you another one, right? But it's a beautiful thing where you become more and more of who he created you to be, that you would not activate otherwise. Right.
Yeah.
So for you, like right now, can you sense what he's starting to lead you into?
Um, Definitely. Well, I know without a doubt, 1,000% that there are big things planned for my life, and my ministry is like, my business and a
Yeah.
nonprofit I want to do later on. And, you
Yeah.
know, but, and in my marriage, and in my marriage is hard.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
And, and in my motherhood, and as a friend, and all this stuff, as a boss, oh my gosh, that's,
I do love.
huge.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know exactly what that is gonna look like. I have some ideas, but I think right now, um, God is really leading me into, um, I'm just gonna claim it. It's like a
Yeah.
promised land for all of this,
Yes.
walking around in the, uh, you know, wilderness, and losing my faith sometimes, but all the while, actually, now I'm seeing I was building, and I was
Uh,
growing. I was letting God,
yeah.
minister to me, even in, when I was kicking and screaming.
Yes.
Um, so now I believe for sure I've got a lot of that sustainability. Me and him have built this, house together, and now I get to like pick out the furniture, and, like the light pictures, and
Totally.
like that. Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard. It's actually, I don't, I have a hard time believing that, like, I'm allowed to be happy and
Okay.
okay. It's like a lesson
Okay.
I've learned my whole life,
Yeah.
like, I don't deserve to be happy, or, it's never really going to happen for me. Or there's always something, and it's going to not be okay.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that in this next season,
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how to be, content, and enjoy the fruit of my labor.
Yeah. You're ministering to somebody right now. That's so powerful. That's actually biblical, right? It says that God will give us this gift. It's from
Mhm.
Ecclesiastes, right? Because like Ecclesiastes is talking about like it's all
That's my favorite.
vanity, right?
That's
Like
my favorite book.
everything's vanity, everything under the sun, right? And you're kind of like, oh, this is deep, right? Like, but it does say that God will give you this gift to enjoy the work of your hands, right? That's
Yeah.
truly a gift of God. And so that could be, I would find that scripture specifically if you don't know that one. Um, let's see.
Yeah. Ecclesiastes has always been like my favorite book.
I'm trying to think.
It's for the uh
I've got to find what it is because I know there's one in Deuteronomy too. I got to find the address and I'll text it to you and send you that message. But literally, it's God will give you this beautiful gift to, like Apostle Paul, be content no matter what is happening so that you can fully be present. When you're content, you can be present. When
yeah,
you're
present.
anxious, you're like tripping about all the things, right? But when you're content, you can be present. But he also like allows you to enjoy what you're doing without waiting for the shoe to drop, without expecting it to fail, without, you know what I mean? Really being worried about what can happen in some future time. He just lets you be all there and really enjoy it and embrace how full that is.
Mm,
Right? Like you get to do this work. Like you're
yeah.
living in your impossible right now. And like, why not soak in that for a minute and let that be okay before you're like on to a next big thing? Because this is a big thing.
Yeah,
This is the
right?
biggest thing. Like, this is the biggest thing that you didn't even think about all those things. He's answering them now, and you would miss it if you went to a different thing. Like, you already
Yeah.
are being that beautiful mom that you wanted to be. You already
Yeah.
are being that partner that you didn't know was possible. You already are now being this business owner and leader, not just an owner, but a leader. Like you
Yeah.
already are. And it's like, it would not be a blessing to throw you into another thing where you miss the sweetness of what this is.
Yes. And
And
that's what it is.
yeah,
It's always,
yeah,
on to the next and, climb another mountain and prove myself.
yeah,
And yeah, it's definitely
yeah,
and that's what it is, a gift. I mean, the gift of God is,
yeah.
I couldn't come up with them on my own. They're too good.
Yeah. And it's like, we're always, when you think about climbing mountains, right? In between them are always valleys,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, after the climb, like enjoy the view for a minute, because you're going to have
Mhm.
your next challenge in no time. Like what I like to say is like, we're either coming out of a challenge, we're in one, or we're about to be in one. Like that's
Mhm.
kind of how life
Always
is.
the.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, like, if you can just learn to be content or be in your season and be all there, it's like you'll fully embrace just this sweet connection with God and everything He has for you in every season. Like, in every season, there's something. But if we're always like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, we miss it. And a lot
Yeah.
of times when we miss it, we've got to repeat stuff. And there's just some pain that I don't want to repeat personally.
Right.
Like, let me get
I'm
my
like,
lesson
I do
though. Like,
not
let
want
me
to
get my
repeat.
lesson.
I do not want to repeat a lot of this
No,
stuff. Okay.
no. So it's like
And he's
permission.
gracious enough to not, to give me full opportunity. That's the thing. It's like he gives the full opportunity over and over and over again if you didn't get it. Cause like
Yeah.
he's not gonna let you down,
Yeah.
give you
Yeah.
what you need to
Yeah.
have what he's got for you.
Yeah. I'm just hearing that phrase for you, like enjoy the view. Enjoy the view.
Yeah, I need that.
Enjoy the view. Right? I'm curious too. I told you this question was coming, but many, many years from now, right? When you're with Jesus and you can't leave anything that you've created here, which even as a creator, that can be something that's like, "Ooh," right? But you can't leave
Mhm.
any of what you've created here, but you can give a piece of advice that will totally alter the course of someone's life and make sure that they fulfill their destiny. What would you tell them? Your face right now?
I'd say go for it.
Come on.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Go for it. I wouldn't learn the hard stuff or get the good stuff if
Yeah.
I didn't, if I just didn't believe that it could be possible. And I've overcome the most impossible things. I have a flying pig tattooed on me because, it's all possible, even when you don't see a way. If it comes from your heart where, and you believe God for it, then go for it.
Yeah. So good. It's so good. Remind me what your name means together. What does your name mean? Because I know that you've done that exercise.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This thing that I got one time, like from like one of those gift shops or whatever, and they have like people's names and whatever. There was one my dad picked up for me right after I got sober. So crazy. And it
Yeah.
had Evelyn on there. And the description, I wish I had it right now.
Oh,
It was amazing. But Evelyn is, Eve, which is beginning or life. Or light, and I don't remember what Isabella is, but I definitely know, and I'm like aligned with um creative energy and light and life and the start of things, and also the receiving and the enjoying and the other side of that, which is just yeah, enjoying the view.
it means this is going to be so beautiful for you. So Isabel is God is perfection. God is my oath. It means beautiful and also God's promise.
Wow, that's
So
pretty amazing.
for you in this season, what I'm sensing is that God is bringing life to these areas of promise that you've desperately
Mm.
longed for and fought for, warred for, contended for for so many years, and you just get to enjoy the beauty of those in this season. It truly is a season of flourishing. It will be a season of harvesting, but you'll get to really embrace the fullness of that, sort of like the stop and smell the roses
Mhm.
experience, where it's like all of this beauty is around you, but you'll be able to see it. Like life, it's almost like in black and white versus in living color. Life will just be full of color and vibrancy for you, and it'll be this beautiful reflection of who you are and the beauty that you bestow on people every single day, but you'll be able to receive it in a way that you've never received it before. And that fullness is the very thing that will turn into fuel that will launch you into the next when the time is right for that. But you get to fully embrace this as long as you need. It's almost like take as much time as you need. Just like fully live in this and be all here, be here now. Really just embrace this because you have permission to prosper and have and enjoy your life until it overflows. So expecting that overflow, but not grasping for it and just embracing how beautiful it is, because these are hard won promises that you're truly living in right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. I
Yeah.
received that.
Yes. And there is too. And I think you might have, I don't know if you went through this specific one, but there is in the Courage Co Masterclass bundle, which you're in, there's, I believe it's a challenge and it's called Permission to Prosper. If you go back
Mm.
through that now, I think you'll see it from a totally different lens. So I would go back through that one specifically too and just be like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cause it'll kind of bring ease in your soul in a way where you can just be like, oh yeah, like this is obviously where we are. This is what God's doing. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to give all of my energy and life to that. I'm going to give it to this.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to go through like and just have, the God's vibes and masterclass and stuff and get on, calls with other groups and stuff. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's been truly just amazing. I'm so appreciative of what you're doing in the world. And I mean, it's like, it's special.
Yeah.
It's good. It's life-giving. And, your heart is so behind it, so like powerful. The message that you have is so powerful,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad I found you.
I feel the same way. I just want to honor you too, because I think that you, whether you are aware of it or not, embody humility and just God's expression. Like you truly do. Like it's God's beauty in its purest form, right? And I think that that's probably something that you never, maybe you knew that was possible in you, but you never knew that you could just freely be that, and that's everything. And so I just want to honor you because you are truly living that today. And I think that gives permission to everybody you encounter that it doesn't have to be so hard, that they're free just to be the unique beauty and expression of that in the world. And that's actually what works. That's how you unlock everything that's connected to your life, is when you're just free to just beautifully be who it is that you are. So thank you for modeling that for people. It's truly a gift.
Thank you. I love that. That's how I've always like felt, and to be like allowed to feel that,
Yeah.
like, and see that
Yeah.
that's being expressed to other people makes me really happy.
So good. So good. And now it being like soon to be an alum, like you get to hang in the mastermind for a year. So you don't just go through it for like 3 months, thank goodness, right? You can like continue to unpack it for a while.
Yeah.
But for anyone that is probably where you were, that doesn't know if they should jump in, because we have our next round starting October 9th, right? So they don't know, should I apply? Should I get in there? Is God going to show up? Is this girl like tripping? Like, is she for real? Like, what would you say to somebody that's maybe a skeptic or on the fence, or like is sensing a tug of God but not sure if they should jump or not?
Yeah. Well, I hope that whoever listens to this surely finds some words for them, and hopefully listening right now they hear and feel the presence and love of God, just like giving them that permission to like
Amen.
to live out their dreams and to be bigger than life, and whatever they're struggling with or going through, or need help through, or can't see God in and like are desperate for him, or business, life, anything like that, marriage, depression, I mean, mental health stuff, like all the things, dependence, codependence. This will truly change your life, and you don't have to do it perfect. You don't have to go through this lesson, this lesson, this lesson, like,
Yeah.
and like perfectly. And like, you can show up to the calls and have a community, even if you never get on a Zoom call ever, because your anxiety is so high, or you don't want to see people. You never turn a camera on.
Yeah.
This is the kind of place that you're going to be able to just turn your camera on. And, yeah, Juliana has got some good stuff. You can get a lot of stuff from her free content. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's really good. But being a part in the commitment, like you making the commitment, whoever this is for, you making this commitment. Yeah, God will double for your trouble, like Juliana says. And, he will honor that commitment, because how else could he, if that's your reasoning for it? So, yeah, if you feel peace, even if, you're, I don't know, something, money or time or whatever your biggest objection is, it won't work for me, whatever. That's like just all not even a contest. I mean,
Yeah.
pray about it. If you feel peace, go for it.
Yeah. God will make a way. So good. I love. How can people connect with you and encounter all of the beauty that you are? How can they go get beautified?
Yeah. Well, my Instagram is Evelyn Isabel Aesthetics. Aesthetics with an E, not an A. That's a good place to find me. I'm growing my team right now to help me behind the scenes. Y'all, I am truly an artist, and everything on, like, admin and everything like that is kind of difficult for me. So right now I've got somebody making it easy for you to talk to me, find me, book an appointment. I'm in Tyler, Texas. Come get your eyebrows did. I am literally the best. It's your face, if you're struggling with, something with your skin. I like to give people every option and opportunity to age gracefully and like literally love themselves when they look in the mirror, without doing, Botox and filler and all that kind of stuff. I'm not against it. I'm just, I think we should have fun and take care of ourselves and not have to do all this like other stuff that makes us look like other people, or doesn't work with our natural beauty. So
Or that's
yeah, find me on
sustainable, to
there.
your point, right? Like, you don't have to get on some sort of pattern of like doing these things all the time, because then you just have a drug.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
why? And like, it's all about it. Like, find an esthetician. Come
yeah,
to me if you're close,
yeah,
or maybe we can connect on virtual or something. But find a find somebody you like and you connect with, and an esthetician, and start a relationship with them, and trust them. Put your face in their hands, and I guarantee they will do the best they could ever do if you do that. So if that's me, then come on.
yeah. I love it. No big deal. Just your face.
Yeah, no big
It's
deal.
your face. Well, and if they come to you, they'll get preached to, they'll get prayed for, they'll get basically bamboozled in the best way.
Sometimes, not gonna lie, you might get like me, just maybe you're my therapist. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm crying. No, I'm just kidding. Those days are over.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been an honor having you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.